So there is a trending topic of conversation on this app where women are coming on here and saying they feel like they lost their self-identities when they had kids. Now, naturally in the comments, they're getting eat up by men and women, but I completely agree with them and I have seen it in real time. I used to want kids and I'll always want a family. I have to mourn that. But the one thing that impacted my decision, so back when I was with my last boyfriend, he had a twin sister. So him and I were really close with her and her boyfriend. Well, they ended up having a kid. And unfortunately, he was born with a lot of birth defects, medical issues, some disabilities. And the first 3 months he couldn't come home. But when he finally did, he ended up having a trach, and then there was a lot of other things that went along with it. So my boyfriend's sister was an elementary school teacher. She was obsessed with her job. She loved that job. And she worked really hard to get there. But basically overnight, she had to make that decision that, she had to quit her job. She had to be a stay-at-home mom to help take care of her son who had all these medical disabilities. And since she quit her job, her boyfriend had to basically work 24/7 to make up for that. So they never saw each other. And then she was by herself all the time with the baby at home. The hospital would send travel nurses here and there just so she could get some sleep, but that girl was on her own. And so usually when we'd come over, me and her would be inside and the boys would be outside drinking or something. So she started venting to me and, I was able to empathize with her because my brother has Crohn's disease. I watched my mom go through a lot of the same stuff that she was going through. But the things that she would say is, I worked so hard for my degree. I worked so hard for that job. I love that job. I miss my kids. But in the same, she felt guilty for feeling that way because, she brought her son into this world. She wanted her son. She loved her son. She wanted to be there for him. But it was hard for her to cope with the fact that she was no longer a teacher anymore. All she could do is stay at home. And then there was this one night where the boys randomly came inside and it's in the middle of her crying. And so they're freaking out. They're like, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's going on? And this girl just had a breakdown. I don't know how else to say it. She had a breakdown and she's crying and she's freaking out. And she's like, I don't know who I am anymore. All I am is a mom and I don't know. But when I tell you, those boys let into her. And they were like, yeah, that's what happens when you're a mom. You have to get over it. And it was like they were making her feel bad for the way that she was feeling. So of course I'm stepping up to them, and I'm like, no, y'all aren't gonna talk to her like that. Not with me here. And the argument got so heated that we had to leave. My ex-boyfriend was so mad at his sister for her crying. And that moment has always stuck with me. I remember at one point, their mom was gonna try and do part-time work instead of full-time work because they did not need the money. They were very well off. But the way their dad had a problem with it, he was like, no, she made her bed. She wanted to be a mom. She's going to deal with it. So even though she reached out, wanted support, the mom was going to give it. The dad intervened and said no. So it's like you tell women to reach out. You tell women to ask for help. But what happens when they do and people don't want to help because you asked for it? My biggest fear is to be left alone with a child when people promised they would be there.